Thousands of years before the rise of the First Galactic Empire, the Jedi Order was founded as a religious organization dedicated to the study and worship of the Force. Specifically, they chose to channel the light side of the Force, detaching themselves from strong emotion and using their gifts to aid others and gain knowledge. Over the course of many years, they brought their message of peace and justice to several worlds, and eventually claimed the ice world of Ilum as their own. Here, the Jedi Order discovered kyber crystals, which were attuned to the Force and could be used to craft weapons of pure energy. The lightsaber, as it was named, became the traditional weapon of the Jedi, and the voyage to Ilum developed into a rite of passage for young Jedi so they might choose their crystal and craft their lightsaber. This tradition would later become the Gathering, a sacred ritual performed by Jedi younglings to choose their crystal, build their lightsaber, and prove they were ready to become an apprentice to a Jedi Knight. Over thousands of years, the Jedi Order developed its own culture, traditions, and values. The basis for their beliefs became known as the Jedi Code, and it forbade Jedi from forming personal attachments, while encouraging them to remain compassionate towards all, and to value all sentient life. The Code also included a mantra which summarized their basic belief system. There is no emotion, there is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no passion, there is serenity. There is no chaos, there is harmony. There is no death, there is the Force. Because the demands of the Jedi Code were so stringent, mastery of the Force became a lifelong pursuit. Children were recruited at very young ages and taught in Jedi Temples, and a hierarchy within the Order was formed. The youngest children were known as younglings, and they were taught Force theory and the basics of its use. Younglings were then tested on the planet Ilum, where they would find their kyber crystals and build their lightsaber. If they succeeded, they became Padawan learners, assigned to a full Jedi who would take on their instruction. After many years as a Padawan, they were tested through the Jedi Trials, which would take them through 9 stages, focusing on teamwork, isolation, fear, anger, betrayal, focus, instinct, forgiveness, and protection. If passed, Padawans became Jedi Knights, and after many years as Knights, and after having proven their skill, Jedi were promoted to the rank of Master. Finally, the wisest and usually oldest among the Order was granted the rank of Grand Master, and he would serve as leader of the Order. Assisting the Grand Master in administering the organization would be the Jedi Council, which consisted of 12 Jedi Masters. In addition to the Grand Master, a Master of the Order would be elected to serve as leader of the Council. Roughly 6,000 years before Empire, the Jedi Order fractured in what became known as the 100 Years of Darkness. It began when a Jedi Knight started questioning the ways of the light side, focusing on his anger and hate to discover the power of the dark side. This lone Jedi became convinced the dark side was the only way for a Force user to reach his true potential. Yet his ideas were dismissed by the Jedi leadership, who cast him out of the Order. His philosophy soon caught the attention of many more Jedi, who decided to leave the Order and follow their new Dark Master. These rogue Jedi formed the Sith Order, who stood in opposition to the Jedi, believing the dark side held the true power of the Force, and where the Jedi used their abilities for the benefit of others, the Sith would use their abilities for themselves, exploiting others for their own advantage. These fallen Jedi relocated to the planet of Moraband, which would become known as the Sith homeworld. After growing their numbers and expanding their influence, the Sith declared war on the Jedi, convinced it was their destiny to rule the galaxy. The Sith became powerful, developing super weapons said to have the ability to destroy entire worlds. But the Sith, made treacherous and selfish by their own teachings, would constantly fight among each other, and as a result were often defeated by the Jedi, who then disassembled their super weapons and took back Sith-conquered worlds. But the Sith could never be entirely defeated, and so the Jedi Order would continue to fight against their enemies wherever encountered, and did their best to keep Sith influence out of allied worlds. And so it would be that the Jedi would enter into an alliance with what is now referred to as the Old Republic. Agreeing with the Republic ideals of peace, democracy, and justice for all, the Jedi became proud defenders of the Republic. It was during this time that the Jedi made Coruscant their homeworld, founding the Jedi Temple over the ruins of an abandoned Sith shrine. To adhere to their beliefs in freedom for all, the Republic outlawed slavery, and so the Jedi Order went to war with the great Zygerrian slave empire, dismantling their trade networks and spreading democracy and Republic values to freed worlds. Many years after the Zygerrian conflict was settled, a new threat arose that challenged Republic safety. The warriors of Mandalore had begun conquering neighboring worlds and expanding the influence of their warlike culture. The Jedi once again went to war, hoping to stop the spread of Mandalore violence. However, Mandalorians fought not for riches or glory, but for the thrill of the fight itself. The war therefore was long and draining, costing the Republic much in the way of blood and treasure. A Mandalorian general was even able to sack the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, stealing a Jedi relic known as the Darksaber. At the same time, wars with the Sith Order were once again rising, and the strain of both conflicts ultimately collapsed the Old Republic government. Yet even with the fall of their allies, the Jedi continued on, and were able to defeat both the Sith and the Mandalorians. The Mandalorians were pushed back to their homeworld, while the Sith were destroyed both by the Jedi and their own continued infighting, until only one Dark Lord remained, known to history as Darth Bane. He saw the devastation caused by Sith civil war, and so created the Rule of Two, claiming that from that point forward only two Sith could ever exist at a time, a master to embrace the power of the dark side, and an apprentice to desire that power. In this way, they would seek revenge against the Jedi, working in the shadows, secretly to destroy their order. Darth Bane was eventually killed by the Jedi, who then became convinced this was the end of the Sith Order. Yet the work of Darth Bane continued through his secret apprentice, who escaped Jedi notice. Roughly 1,000 years before Empire, with the Sith and Mandalorians defeated, a Galactic Republic was once again formed out of the ashes of the Old Republic, adhering to the same values and ideals. The Jedi once again became their defenders, this time focusing more on diplomacy and peacekeeping than all-out war. For 1,000 years, the Republic flourished and expanded, stretching far across the galaxy without any major wars. Local planetary and trade disputes were settled by the Jedi and a policing force that came to be known as the Judicials. They were more numerous than the Jedi, and could therefore settle smaller disputes throughout the galaxy. Roughly 900 years before Empire, as the Galactic Republic and the Jedi worked to spread their ideals across the galaxy, the legendary Jedi Master, Yoda, was born. Discovered to possess strong Force sensitivity, Yoda was trained as a Jedi, and spent 800 years teaching others what he had learned. Yoda became widely known as the wisest of the Jedi Order, and for his incredible Force powers and skill with a lightsaber. Though Yoda was selfless and sage, it would be his final apprentice, Count Dooku, who would ultimately betray the Order, joining with the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, embracing the dark side, and contributing greatly in orchestrating the eventual fall of the Galactic Republic and Jedi Order. A special thanks to all those who have contributed to Civilization X. You make these videos possible, and I am eternally grateful for your support. If you would like to help Civilization X and want a say in the future content of this channel, click on the Patreon link in the description box below, and pledge any amount you'd like on a monthly basis. Or if you would prefer to make a single donation, you can use the PayPal link, also in the description below. And please be sure to like and subscribe, and click on the links to see more.